Well, good morning, everyone. Sean Hammond here from WJRS. It is Wednesday, April the 2nd at about 9:43 a.m. Want to come on here and provide you with the very latest on the severe weather situation later today, but especially tonight. So we'll kind of dive into things. We've got other severe weather threats throughout the week, but I do want to focus on today. So there's the latest severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center, and it's pretty colorful out there. First of all, for our friends in far western Kentucky, we'll zoom in a little closer. So we're talking about folks in Paducah, Benton, of course, Mayfield, and basically along and west of 169 and 69. That is a level 5 out of 5, a high risk of severe weather. Folks, that is very rare. I think I saw on social media this morning the last time any part of Kentucky was in a level 5 high risk. You got to go all the way back to March of 2012. I think that's what I saw on there this morning, which is that's a crazy statistic. And we are pretty concerned about the potential for a tornado outbreak and even a few strong to violent tornadoes across western Kentucky. Surrounding that, nothing to sneeze at. It's the level 4 moderate risk. That's basically along a line from Louisville down to around Bowling Green and points west. Of course, this also goes north and south, but we're kind of focusing in on Kentucky. And then surrounding that, you've got the level 3 enhanced risk, which basically includes all of the Lake Cumberland region. Then a slight risk beyond that, and then in far eastern Kentucky, you have the marginal risk of severe weather. So let's kind of dive into things. First off, let's take a look at the tornado threat, because I do want to pull this up here. So we'll turn on the tornado threat, and you see these little hatched areas. That's where there could be a strong tornado or two. We're talking about EF2 or stronger. And you got that pink area. That is a 30% chance. And folks, that's very significant. Of a strong to violent tornado. And basically that hatched area encompasses most of Kentucky with the exception of eastern Kentucky, potentially seeing a strong tornado or two. But again, the bigger dynamics for that are clearly across western Kentucky at this time. We will pull up the wind. Again, there's a hatched area for wind. Let me move this over here. Well, I'm trying to, there we go. Okay, scoot this over here a little bit. A hatched area for wind, that's a significant wind. 70, 80, 90, maybe even 100 miles per hour in terms of a straight line damaging winds. That encompasses much of Kentucky, again, that eastern part of the state where we think don't really know how much steam that line of storms will have by the time it reaches that area. And then, of course, significant hail. There's a hatched area for much of the state. Again, like I said, western Kentucky, that's where that big threat is. So, again, we'll pull up the levels here. You got a level 5 out of 5, the high risk. Across far western Kentucky, surrounding that, a level 4 moderate risk. And then for us here in the Lake Cumberland area, we're talking about the level 3 enhanced risk. Okay, let's jump into the models here. And I want to first start out, I like to do it's called CAPE, Convective Available Potential Energy. Think of this if the fuel, if you will. So we'll push this up because we're expecting things to kind of get going later on this afternoon, but especially for us tonight and overnight. So let me get that at about 6 o'clock this afternoon. And look at some of these numbers. Yeah, we've had severe weather with CAPE values, the fuel, in the 6 to 700 range. So 1,300, that's more than enough. Across western Kentucky, you've got over 3,000 units. And so you can see why the concern for strong to violent tornadoes is more prevalent in that part of the state. And you can see by the time we get into the late evening and overnight hours, early morning, the fuel does come down a bit, but still that's more than enough to produce strong to severe storms. We'll go to the future radar look, and I did see something concerning a few minutes ago that I do want to discuss real quick. So if you look at the top of your screen, and let me see, can I draw? Yeah, let me, if you kind of look up in this area, you'll see the date and time of the model. See right there, it says valid 4/2, which is today at 10 a.m. So you can kind of follow along with that. Things will stay relatively quiet. And unfortunately, it looks like we're going to have plenty of sunshine. But look at what we start seeing this afternoon. We had seen some signals of this, but then not a lot of signals yesterday. look across western Kentucky, you start getting those little isolated storms, isolated supercells, and those are the ones that really concern us when it comes to the severe weather. Because think about it like this. We were talking about that fuel. Mark Weinberg, I gotta give him credit for this. He's a chief meteorologist at WDRB in Louisville. I don't never like to steal anybody's ideas, so I'm going to give him credit. He explained this last night. Think of the fuel and the dynamics as one bucket. When you have a line of storms, that line is all having to share that bucket. When you have these storms by themselves and they're individual like that, they've got that bucket all to themselves. They can feed off all of that energy. So let's start going. There's 3, 4, and 5, and look at this. Look at these isolated supercells getting close to the Lake Cumberland area this afternoon. Hadn't really seen that yesterday. This was looking more and more like a linear event, and of course the radar it won't look exactly like this. But the fact that we are getting some signals, potentially some isolated supercells ahead of that. We've got to really watch out for that, folks. Again, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, not trying to scare anybody. Remember, be prepared, have your plan in place, everything will be okay. I try to stress that as much as I can, but you got to really, man, watch out for those isolated supercells. And then look at 7 o'clock tonight. Look at that big, nasty line of storms. Let me zoom things out of here a little bit. I mean, that thing just looks absolutely I'm just going to be honest with you, it looks disgusting. You've got those areas of black in there, which is indicative of very large hail. And then by 8 o'clock, now again, this is the run of this is called the HRR, the HRRR model. We'll look at the high-res NAM in just a minute. But that's 8 o'clock, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and the model will only go up to 2 a.m. tomorrow morning. You can see that line, according to this run of the model, just now getting into the Bowling Green area and points to the east. And it's still holding its own at that time. But again, you can see how it looks more intense across western Kentucky. But again, I don't like seeing those little isolated supercells like that. You know, that's something that's going to bear watching. Let's switch over to the NAM model and see what the NAM wants to pop out. This run was valid, looks like about an hour ago, and there's a new one that's going to be coming in within the next little bit. So this run doesn't really try to spit out those isolated supercells for us. It kind of has, some individual cells across western Kentucky, and then here comes that line. And this run has that line kind of breaking apart. This has been such a difficult forecast. But this run of the NAM, look, there's 10 o'clock, 11, midnight, and then it kind of just breaks apart. I don't think that will happen, but again, that's something pretty interesting. Again, the models have been pretty inconsistent. Different ones have been anyway when it comes to trying to nail this thing down. We'll pull up the RAP model. This is the rapid update. It's not the greatest resolution, but you could see this afternoon wants to have some convection across much of the area, and then it tries to have some showers and storms out ahead of it, which may rob that main line of some of the energy. But again, I can show you 30 different models all day, and we'll probably get a different things will probably look different. We'll go back to that NAM model, and let me go back to the 060 run, which came in at 4 o'clock this morning, just to kind of see if there's any kind of consistency with that run. So we'll do this. We'll keep pushing forward. And again, there's that line kind of looking disorganized across western Kentucky. And you could see from that run to the run I just showed you a few moments ago, it's more disorganized. So I usually like to use the HRRR model when it comes to especially the day of an event, because it's usually pretty darn good. So we'll jump back to the HRRR, and let's go to the run that came in at 8 this morning, the run before this one. So you can see, there it is, spitting out some isolated supercells. And then here comes that line in here, and it stays pretty consistent. It has that line coming in here between 2 and 3:30, maybe 4 in the morning. So what I'm trying to tell you is that the risk basically starts late this afternoon, but especially overnight. And I tell you, it's been such a difficult forecast to follow. National Weather Service has had trouble coming up with a good timing of this, but here's the newest run of the herd. And again, I want to show you that. It's got those isolated supercells late this afternoon, early evening. We have to really watch out for those to see if that will verify. Because like I told you, those isolated cells, those pose more of a tornado threat. And especially on a day where we have such strong dynamics in place where we could see a few strong tornadoes, especially in western Kentucky, we got to really keep a close watch on that. And, of course, we will. We'll keep you up to date with the very latest on that. We'll jump back over to the radar and kind of give you a big picture on what's happening right now. We do have storms and severe storms occurring to our west. Let me turn the warnings back on here. We've got mainly just a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings. I got one up there in Ohio and some in Illinois and Missouri. And we're going to have to watch and see how what this line will do to kind of play into our threat. We think it's going to throw out some kind of outflow boundary, and then we're going to see what kind of happens after that. And again, there's just so many things we don't know right now, and we won't know until we get to later on in the afternoon hours. We'll pull up the visible satellite shot. And let me go here to, we'll get it to where it's kind of over Kentucky. There we go. And again, you don't really like seeing that, folks. You got just big breaks in the clouds. Plenty of sunshine out there. It's 72 degrees right now. We're thinking we're going to get into the low 80s by later on today. So going to be plenty of heating, plenty of sunshine out there, which in turn could lead to some rough weather later on. But again, like I said, the big threat clearly appears to be across western Kentucky. There's the severe weather threats, again, level 5 out of 5 in western Kentucky. Again, potential tornado outbreak. I do want to tell you right now, if you have friends or family, folks in western Kentucky, just make sure that they are staying weather aware today and keep them up to date on what's going on. And then, of course, that everything will start to slide over here as we go later on into the evening and nighttime hours. But like I said, we have to really watch out for those isolated supercells, those individual storms. That's not what we want to see. And we'll see what happens whenever we get some of the newer runs of these models as we go through the afternoon hours. We'll be able to get a little bit better of an idea. But if you don't want to see those individual storms. And so when I saw that on the new HER model, that did concern me. But again, like I told you all, have a plan. Be prepared to put that plan into place. And, of course, everything will be okay. Severe weather anxiety is a big thing. My kids hate storms, scared to death of them. I'm not a big fan of them myself. But just remember, if you have your plan, just make sure you're ready to execute that plan, and everything will be fine. Got that flooding threat as well. Let's pull up the I want to go over here to the hydrological outlooks, and we'll go to the day 1 through, let me pull it up here. So here's the day 2 outlook. And look at that. That's a rare high risk from the Weather Prediction Center, the Climate Prediction Center, on excessive rainfall. Folks, we could see over a foot of rain by the time all of this is said and done in western Kentucky as we get into the weekend. So I don't want to discount the fact that we could have some major flooding issues. For us here at home, somewhere between 4 and 6 inches by the time everything's said and done. That's what we've been seeing so far. Of course, we'll keep you up to date on that if and when things change. Folks, have a great rest of your Wednesday. I'm going to try to push another one of these out there this afternoon. Stay safe. Again, have multiple ways to receive watches and warnings. And, of course, if we do have any kind of active severe weather, we'll be on the air and on Facebook as well, providing you continuous updates. Have a great Wednesday, guys.